Let me start with something most people won't say out loud. If you've ever wondered whether your body is capable of multiple orgasms, the answer is almost always yes. What's missing isn't desire, effort, or chemistry, it's understanding. Because real pleasure doesn't come from doing more, faster, harder, or longer. It comes from doing the right things in the right way and letting your body feel safe enough to fully open into it. Here's what I've noticed, both personally and from countless conversations with women who are honest behind closed doors. The moments that lead to multiple orgasms aren't wild, chaotic, or performative. They're slow, intentional, grounded. They happen when your body isn't being pushed but invited. And interestingly, there's one position that keeps coming up again and again, not because it looks exciting, but because it feels profoundly connected. What makes this position different is that it works with the female nervous system instead of against it. Research shows that when a woman feels emotionally connected, physically aligned, and unrushed, her body stays in a state of arousal longer, meaning pleasure doesn't peak and disappear. It builds, it spreads, it returns. And that's the real secret behind multiple orgasms. This isn't about tricks or techniques you memorize. It's about choosing a setup that naturally encourages closeness, control, and consistency. 3 things the female body responds to deeply. And once you understand why this works, everything changes. Your confidence shifts, your communication improves, and pleasure stops feeling like something you chase and starts feeling like something that flows. So stay with me, because once you see how this works, you'll never look at pleasure the same way again. Let's start by clearing up one of the biggest myths around female pleasure, that it's about intensity, faster, deeper, more aggressive. That idea didn't come from women's bodies, it came from performance culture. In reality, the female nervous system responds best to consistency, safety, and rhythm. And this is where this position quietly outperforms almost everything else. Research in sexual wellness consistently shows that the majority of women experience stronger and more repeatable orgasms when external stimulation is steady and predictable rather than overwhelming. The body needs time to settle into sensation. When stimulation jumps around or becomes too forceful, the nervous system goes into alert mode instead of pleasure mode. This position naturally slows things down, not because it's passive, but because it's aligned. Bodies fit together in a way that reduces strain, encourages closeness, and allows stimulation to happen without interruption. Another reason this position works so well is pelvic alignment. When the hips are positioned in a way that feels supported rather than stretched or tense, blood flow improves and sensation becomes more diffuse, meaning pleasure doesn't stay localized. It spreads. That spreading sensation is often what women describe right before experiencing multiple waves of climax rather than one sharp peak. There's also an emotional component that science backs up. When a woman feels emotionally safe, her body produces more oxytocin, the hormone associated with bonding and relaxation. This hormone doesn't just make you feel connected, it directly affects how pleasure is processed. Higher oxytocin levels lower anxiety, soften muscle tension, and allow arousal to stay active longer. This position encourages eye contact, touch, and closeness in a way that subtly boosts the chemical response without anyone having to try. What's fascinating is that women who report multiple orgasms often describe the experience as something that happens when they stop monitoring themselves. They're not thinking, is this taking too long? Am I responding the right way? They're simply present. This position supports the mental state because it removes pressure. It doesn't demand performance, it invites participation. And then there's control, not dominance, but choice. This position gives women the ability to adjust movement angle and pace with minimal effort. Even the smallest shifts can dramatically change sensation. Research shows that when women feel agency over their pleasure, satisfaction increases significantly. Feeling in control keeps arousal from collapsing after the first climax, which is essential for experiencing more than one. So when people ask, why does this position lead to multiple orgasms? The answer isn't magic, it's biology. It works because it respects how the female body actually responds to touch, emotion, and time. It's not about pushing the body to do something extraordinary. It's about creating conditions where extraordinary pleasure becomes possible. And once you understand that, you stop chasing intensity and start choosing alignment. One of the most misunderstood elements of female pleasure is control, not control in a power play sense, but control is in choice. The ability to guide what's happening without having to stop the moment, explain, correct, or manage someone else's ego. This is where this position quietly becomes transformative. Many women have been conditioned to believe that great intimacy happens when they let go. But what research and real experience show is that letting go only becomes possible after a woman feels she has control. When she knows she can slow things down, shift slightly, or change the rhythm without disrupting the flow, her body relaxes, and relaxation is the gateway to deeper arousal. This position naturally hands that control back to her. The movements don't require big adjustments or verbal instructions. Small changes, subtle shifts of the hips, changes in angle, a slower or more deliberate rhythm can dramatically alter sensation. And because these changes feel natural rather than corrective, the moment stays intimate instead of awkward. Psychologically, this matters more than people realize. Studies in sexual satisfaction consistently show that women experience more pleasure when they feel agency during intimacy. Agency tells the nervous system, I'm safe here, I'm allowed to enjoy this. That sense of safety prevents the sudden drop off in arousal that often happens after the first climax. There's also something deeply attractive about not being rushed. This position discourages urgency. It rewards patience. It invites staying present instead of racing toward an outcome. When a woman senses that there's no pressure to perform or finish on a timeline, her body responds by staying open to sensation longer. Control also changes how desire is experienced. Instead of bracing for intensity, the body leans into anticipation. And anticipation, according to neuroscience, is one of the strongest amplifiers of pleasure. The brain becomes an active participant rather than a passive observer. That's why women often describe this experience as feeling more immersive rather than just physically stimulating. What's powerful here is that control doesn't kill spontaneity, it enhances it. When a woman knows she can guide the experience, she becomes more expressive, more curious, more willing to stay engaged. That engagement is what allows pleasure to build in layers rather than peak and disappear. And this is exactly why this position supports multiple orgasms. Control keeps the nervous system regulated. It prevents overstimulation. It allows the body to transition smoothly from one wave of pleasure into the next without shutting down. So when women say, I feel more when I'm in control, what they're really saying is my body trusts this moment, and trust far more than intensity is what keeps pleasure alive. In intimacy, control isn't about taking over, it's about being allowed to choose. And this position gives women that choice quietly, naturally, and powerfully. There's a reason so many women say their most powerful experiences weren't about what was done, but about how connected they felt while it was happening. Emotional closeness isn't a nice extra in intimacy, it's the multiplier. It's the difference between a moment that feels good and one that feels consuming. From a biological standpoint, this makes perfect sense. When a woman feels emotionally connected, her body releases oxytocin, the same hormone responsible for bonding, trust, and relaxation. Oxytocin doesn't just create emotional warmth, it literally changes how the body experiences sensation. Muscles soften, breathing deepens. The nervous system shifts out of alert mode and into receptivity. That shift is essential for sustained pleasure. This position naturally encourages that closeness. Bodies stay close. Touch isn't intermittent, it's constant. Eye contact becomes easy rather than forced. And when a woman feels seen in those moments, not evaluated, not rushed, not distracted, her mind stops scanning for safety and starts sinking into sensation. That's when pleasure stops being something she's monitoring and starts being something she's experiencing. What's fascinating is that women who experience multiple orgasms often describe a loss of mental boundaries rather than an increase in physical intensity. They stop thinking what's happening next and start feeling I'm here. Emotional closeness quiets the part of the brain that overanalyzes and activates the part that feels deeply. Neuroscience shows that this mental shift allows arousal to remain active instead of collapsing after the first peak. This is also why emotional presence matters more than technique. You can do everything right physically, but if a woman senses distance, distraction, impatience, emotional disconnect, her body holds back, not consciously, but instinctively. Emotional closeness tells her body it's safe to stay open, safe to soften, safe to continue. Another powerful aspect of this position is that it allows intimacy without pressure. There's no sense of performance, no need to impress. When closeness is prioritized, pleasure becomes collaborative rather than goal-oriented. And paradoxically, removing the goal is what makes multiple orgasms more likely. The body doesn't feel like it has to finish, it feels like it's allowed to explore. Women often describe this experience as feeling held rather than stimulated, and that feeling, being emotionally held, keeps arousal circulating instead of spiking and disappearing. Each wave of pleasure blends into the next because the body never fully disengages. This is why emotional closeness isn't something you add later. It's the foundation. Without it, pleasure tends to peak sharply and fade. With it, pleasure expands, lingers, and returns. So when people ask why this position works so well, the answer isn't just physical alignment, it's emotional alignment. It creates a space where connection leads and the body follows. And when connection leads, pleasure doesn't rush, it stays. Here's the truth most people don't realize. Pleasure isn't about one perfect moment. It's about countless subtle shifts that together completely transform the experience. And that's exactly why this position is so effective. It gives room for those small, almost imperceptible adjustments that make a massive difference. Think about it: one tiny change in angle, a fraction of an inch of hip lift, a slight pause, or a slower rhythm can completely alter how sensation flows. These aren't dramatic or flashy movements. They're gentle, intentional, and incredibly precise. And the beauty of this position is that it encourages them naturally without breaking the intimacy or making anyone feel self-conscious. The body adapts effortlessly, and the brain notices the difference, amplifying arousal at every turn. Even research supports this. Studies in sexual satisfaction show that women report higher pleasure when they have the ability to fine-tune what they're feeling. It's not about controlling everything, but about micro adjustments that make the body feel perfectly aligned. And when your body feels aligned, it doesn't have to resist, tense up, or anticipate discomfort. Instead, it relaxes into sensation, letting waves of pleasure build higher and longer. Another overlooked factor is anticipation. When subtle changes are introduced, slower transitions, pauses that aren't awkward but inviting, the brain gets a chance to heighten arousal before the next peak. This builds a rolling intensity. Here's the thing I notice over and over again, and it's exactly what allows multiple orgasms to happen. The nervous system stays engaged when a man is open instead of shutting down after his body adjusting his collar. And it's not brushing his jaw or placing a small adjustment near his chest. It's not an invitation to responsiveness. And it's when a partner notices a shift in posture, the most powerful response is or a subtle cue in movement. It reinforces nothing but everything at that reinforcement strengthens. Let me explain what I mean. You don't call out his behavior physical, you don't lean in aggressively. It's a conversation between bodies where every small tweak speaks volumes. You simply notice it internally, absorb it, and allow it to. You adjust a pillow under the hips, that tiny tilt of the pelvis, awareness that's magnetic. These are the secrets that keeps him on edge in the best way. Extraordinary one. Here's the subtle, yes, desire is strongest when it's not keeps the body guessing in a good way, heightened sensitivity, and prevents overstimulation that would otherwise cut the experience short. Imagine you're talking to him at a casual gathering. He suddenly touches his neck or glancing at you. Alone, they may seem minor, but together they create a masterpiece either freeze and overanalyze. Mastering these nuances is what separates ordinary pleasure from the kind of experience that leaves your body feeling alive. But the woman who truly holds her power, she smiles softly, maintains eye contact just a second longer, no longer chasing intensity, and continues the conversation naturally. And the result, she doesn't overplay her hand, that can and she doesn't underplay one wave after another. She simply exists to the part everyone's really curious about why letting the energy build, just letting him chase pleasure, but sets the stage for magnetic. That's irresistible. And here's why this works. What allows the body to reach that second, third, even fourth wave of pleasure, yet they aren't forcing anything. His attraction intensifies. It's about rhythm, alignment, he starts to wonder why doesn't she overact? And the ability to sustain stimulation without overwhelming. Why do I feel this pull? Think of it like this: most women's bodies respond to gradual tension. It's incredibly seductive. The moment stimulation, and it's exactly what you want to create. You're not giving the nervous system. You're not confirming. That's why so many experiences. You're simply holding space, calm and in this position, letting the body naturally align without releasing smoother and small adjustments, like sexy, empowering timing. You're teaching him that desire must be earned. Keep the sensation flowing without hitting overload. Intimacy, the nervous system stays engaged. The muscles stay relaxed, composed, yet aware of his signals. Instead of collapsing, makes you more magnetic. There's also a psychological component that can't be ignored. You're not chasing. When a woman feels safe, you're not begging control and emotionally connected. You're simply showing her brain is fully tuned into the sensations instead of distracted by worry or self-consciousness. That's sexy in a way. Oxytocin and dopamine are flooding a system, hormones that amplify. So here's my challenge for you: anticipation is one of man's body signaling desire around you. Don't rush. When the mind and body are both fully engaged, arousal doesn't just peak. It hold your posture, maintain eye contact. Another reason enjoy the subtle power you hold is that it removes. I want to hear your story. stories. Many women lose the ability to reach multiple orgasms. Have you ever tried staying calm while noticing there's a sense of urgency? What happened next? Or when they feel like they have to reading these certain cues and responding. Here the focus is on presence, not performance. You're not chasing the climax. You're letting the body guide you long. That's why the first orgasm often doesn't end. Here's the truth. I want you to really hear, because it's something most women creating waves of pleasure that can last longer than most people imagine. Men feel, and it's the combination of all the elements we've already discussed. Let me explain. When a man subtly shows desire and small adjustments that unconsciously adjusting each one alone might create his energy when he's around you. Most together they create an experience that flows naturally from one wave to another, so I have to building layer upon layer. That's where the magic lies. Desire only becomes powerful when you stay grounded, mysterious. You're calm, they aren't reserved inner knowing, your ability to know about understanding your body, that is trusting your instincts and choosing positions and approaches that honor how your nervous system, emotions, fascination. Let me give you an opinion I've noticed in my own experience. It's not flashy. It doesn't rely on gimmicks. It just works. If you've ever wondered what it feels like to stay women who chase, lean too far, or give away access immediately, you now know why this position. Yes, but they lose the magnetic pull. And women who notice the signs, smile inwardly, below, stay composed. Have you tried positions that felt without giving it all away? They become unforgettable. Maybe you've noticed that small adjustments make a big difference in a man's mind. I'd love to hear your experiences. Sharing them not only helps it's not about manipulation, but it also helps others discover understanding energy. Your energy at the end of the day, pleasure isn't about doing more. It's about doing it right in a way that respects the body, the mind, touching and the connection. And when you get it right, multiple brushing his hair, little signs that show he's curious about you. By now, you can probably feel it. How understanding your most women would immediately and the subtle dynamics of nervously or leaning. And while that might feel natural, it's not about doing more. It doesn't create power. Now imagine this instead, you notice and creating a space where your body can fully relax, knowingly, and even surprise itself. And that's the secret behind why this position isn't just letting the moment linger without forcing it. He notices you notice. That's the flirty tension, that pause, that awareness, that subtle recognition. It's irresistible. It's magnetic. Slow down, listen to yourself. And allow your partner to follow your cues rather than rush ahead the waves without you doing anything overt. And once you experience that flow, you realize that intimacy isn't just physical. You enjoy it. It's deeply never let it control. Yes, utterly addictive. So here's what I want you to do next. Not the one chasing. Small adjustments. You're not desperate for validation. Which angles, rhythms, aware that pauses make a difference. And you let it exist naturally, letting him do the mental and one wave of that restraint is what makes him curious. Share it in the comments below. And yes, flirty your experience might help someone else unlock something new for themselves. And let's be honest, and if you've tried something similar and noticed a change, let us know. Conversations like these are where the best insights lie. Finally, remember this pleasure energy. Personal, he tries and discovering what works for your body. And here's the flirty, magnetic. Don't be afraid to experiment with patience, presence, and subtlety. The magic happens when you honor your own pace and feel safe enough to surrender and try to capture. If this video helped you understand the science, connection and the flow behind multiple orgasms, give it a thumbs up. So here's my challenge for you, and I want you to really take this to heart. And if you want the next time a man signals desire around and unforgettable pleasure, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a moment. Trust me, your body will thank you.